What happens when two moving systems on a controlled runway fail to stay separated despite established procedures? At one of the busiest airports in the United States, handling more than 16.7 million departing passengers in 2024, a landing aircraft collided with a ground vehicle, resulting in fatalities and raising immediate questions about coordination and safety protocols. This video explains what is known about the incident at New York's LaGuardia Airport, how events unfolded, who is involved in the investigation, and what factors are now being examined. The incident occurred late Sunday night when an Air Canada Express CRJ-900, operated by Jazz Aviation as Flight AC8646 from Montreal, was approaching LaGuardia Airport in New York. The aircraft was carrying 72 passengers and 4 crew members. At approximately 11:40 p.m. local time, during the landing phase, the aircraft struck a Port Authority fire truck that was on the runway. The truck had been responding to a separate situation involving a United Airlines flight that had reported an unusual odor on board. The sequence of events leading to the collision is central to the investigation. Audio recordings indicate that an air traffic controller initially cleared the fire truck to cross the runway. As the Air Canada aircraft approached, the controller attempted to cancel that clearance and repeatedly instructed the vehicle to stop. The warning came only seconds before impact, leaving limited time for corrective action. Data from flight tracking sources suggests the aircraft was moving at approximately 39 kilometers per hour at the time of the collision, consistent with a landing rollout phase. Captain Tim Hawkins, speaking on behalf of United States Central Command in earlier reporting on aviation incidents, has emphasized that such events typically undergo detailed investigation. And in this case, both United States and Canadian authorities are involved. The Federal Aviation Administration is expected to lead the technical investigation, with support from Canadian officials due to the aircraft's operator and crew origin. Initial assessments are focusing on air traffic control coordination. At major airports, responsibility is divided between ground controllers, who manage vehicles and taxiways, and tower controllers, who oversee runway operations and aircraft movements. Standard procedure requires confirmation that a runway is clear before any crossing is authorized. Investigators will examine how these responsibilities were executed at the time, and whether communication breakdowns occurred between controllers or with the vehicle. Roughly 20 minutes after the incident, one of the controllers involved appeared to acknowledge responsibility in recorded audio, indicating that earlier operational pressures may have contributed to the situation. This statement is likely to be reviewed alongside radar data, communication logs, and controller workload records. Mary Schiavo, a former Inspector General at the U.S. Department of Transportation, has pointed out in similar cases that ground collisions have historically been among the most serious risks in aviation, particularly in high-density environments. The context of staffing and operational conditions is also relevant. The Federal Aviation Administration has reported a shortage of approximately 3,000 air traffic controllers nationwide. However, former FAA Air Traffic Control Chief Mike McCormick has noted that LaGuardia itself is not typically identified as a location with persistent staffing shortages. Even so, the incident occurred during an overnight shift, when staffing levels are generally lower, and controllers may be managing multiple responsibilities. Investigators are expected to review shift schedules, overtime patterns, and potential fatigue factors. The physical environment at LaGuardia adds another layer of complexity. Located in Queens, New York, the airport operates with limited runway space and high traffic density. Its layout requires precise timing and coordination for both aircraft and ground vehicles. This increases reliance on clear communication and strict adherence to procedures, particularly during peak or constrained operational periods. The human impact of the incident is also significant. The pilot and co-pilot of the aircraft were killed, with the cockpit and front section sustaining severe damage. A total of 41 passengers were taken to hospitals, along with 2 firefighters from the truck. Most of those injured have since been released, but some remain under treatment. A flight attendant was found alive outside the aircraft, still secured in her seat, indicating the force of the impact and structural damage to the aircraft. Public responses have been measured and focused on investigation and support. President Donald Trump described the incident as a serious event and indicated that an operational error had likely occurred. Canada's Prime Minister Mark Carney confirmed that Canadian authorities are assisting in the investigation, given the involvement of a Canadian-operated aircraft. New York City Mayor Zohran Mamdani and New York State Governor Kathy Hochul both acknowledged the incident as a serious accident and emphasized the role of first responders in managing the aftermath. Now consider the first scenario. If the investigation concludes that the primary cause was a breakdown in air traffic control coordination, this could lead to procedural changes, additional training, or adjustments in how runway crossings are managed. This type of outcome would focus on preventing similar incidents through operational improvements rather than structural changes. A second scenario involves identifying contributing factors such as workload, communication delays, or environmental conditions. In this case, recommendations may extend beyond a single point of failure to address systemic issues, including staffing levels, shift management, and coordination protocols between different control roles. A third possibility is that multiple factors combined to create the conditions for the collision. Aviation incidents often result from a chain of events rather than a single error. If this is confirmed, the response is likely to involve a combination of procedural revisions, technology updates, and oversight measures aimed at reducing the likelihood of similar sequences occurring in the future. At a systemic level, the incident also intersects with ongoing discussions about staffing and resource allocation in aviation infrastructure. While LaGuardia may not face chronic shortages, the national context of controller availability and operational demands is part of the environment in which such incidents occur. This may influence policy discussions and investment decisions moving forward.